Again, he's speaking to this area, Christians married to non-Christians. And in verse number 14 right here, he says that the unbelieving husband, the unbelieving spouse is sanctified. This does not mean that they are saved. That's not what it means. In fact, within the pages of Scripture, we find that there's 3 meanings for being sanctified. The general meanings for being sanctified is just nothing more than being set apart, okay? And here's how it's applied, 3 different meanings. Number 1 is positionally or eternally set apart, okay? That's not what we're looking at. Another idea behind being set apart is complete sanctification at the return of the Lord. Nope, we're not looking at that one here. But here's what we are looking at. And here's what he is talking about. And that is this being sanctified, this being set apart in a daily experience. In other words, it's the believing spouse is having an impact on the unbeliever. That's the idea that he's talking about. And because of that, our children are clean. Our children are under grace. And think about our kids being below that age of accountability. And you, as a believer, if you're married to an unbeliever, then God has a special grace that is right there that he's giving. And we should understand that. And the impact and the influence that a believing spouse has upon the unbelieving spouse is powerful. Not all unbelieving spouses come to faith. No, the Bible's not teaching that. But there are those that do come to faith, and the impact is from the believing spouse, and it can be over an entire lifetime. In fact, you may not even see it if you're in this situation. You might not even see it with your eyes. It might be something that God does, after you're gone and in heaven. Or it may be something that you get a chance to see with your own eyes. I don't know. But I know that there's so much room in God's grace and so much desire in his love to watch that marriage produce. At the same time, verse number 15, notice what he says. He says, but if the unbeliever departs, let him depart. A brother or a sister is not under bondage in such cases, but God has called us to peace. And so if an unbelieving spouse wants to get a divorce, let him depart. You're not under bondage. Again, if that's a button that they're pushing and that's where they're lingering and this is what they're threatening and this is it, just let it go. God has called you to peace. Verse 16, he says this. He says, for how do you know, O wife, whether you will save your husband, or how do you know, O husband, whether you will save your wife? I think the idea is simple, is that we let our little light and our little life shine for Jesus, and it is our character that will certainly, no, not maybe, nope, will certainly have an impact on them. And they might even get saved. That is powerful, and it's important,